Hello crafty friends, it's Annie from Vintage Lace Journal, and I'm going to show you today how to make a flip flap folio. And I've been wanting to make one of these for a while now, so I've had a go. So I've taken 2 pieces of A4 paper and I've created this, what we call a flip flap folio. So basically we open it up and there's a flap here, and then got a pocket on this bit here and a pocket on this bit here. And then we've got 2 flaps that will have pockets inside here when I decorate it. So this creates the flaps and the flips. This is my prototype. I've had a go at making one. Not made one and decorated it yet, so I'm going to take you on the journey with me. So we're going to start off with 2 sheets of A4 paper. Obviously I'm UK. You can start off with letter size because we're going to cut it down anyway. So this isn't. This is more like thick paper than it is card. I've just got some, I bought some what was supposed to be 300 GSM card. There's no way that this is 300 GSM card. So I'm just using it up in this project. So I'm going to first of all bring in my trimmer. And I'm going to cut this down. Now, I'm going to cut it on the long side. So this long edge I'm going to cut down to 11.5 inches. So 11.5. It takes off a tiny little smidge, but it's just enough for the project. There we go. That's that tiny little bit there. And I'm going to rotate it this way, and I'm going to cut it at 8 inches. And again, this cuts off a tiny little slither of paper, but it just makes my measurements more manageable. Okay, so that now measures 11.5 inches by 8 inches down. So 11.5 by 8. Now your second piece, I'm going to leave it as it is this way on the long side. I am just going to cut on the short side again, so the short side is going to measure the same 8 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to put this one to one side because obviously I don't need that one just yet. Okay. So with my 11.5 inches by 8 inches piece of paper or card, I am now going to do some scoring. So I'm going to put it right up against the edge and I'm going to score at 3.5 inches and then go along to 3 3/4. And I'm going to turn my paper 180 degrees and do exactly the same on this side. So I'm going to score 3.5 inches. And 3 3/4. Now I'm going to bring in my ruler because I always find it easier with these little gussets just to push it up against the paper and then push it over. And then again go to the next one along, push that up, get it started, and then push it over. There we go. And what that does is that creates that little gusset. So when you've got all your pockets and things inside, it gives it room for it to move around. Okay, I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So just putting my ruler up against that score mark, bringing it up to start it off. And then folding it over. Nice crease, and then do the same on the outside score line. It's quite tricky to do it the other way. I can't get that nice neat fold across. There we go. So that's your first piece of card, which is the base for our whole flip flap project. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the folio first, and then I'm going to come in with my papers and decorate it afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to put this to one side now. I'm going to bring in my second piece of card. Now this piece of card is the bit that's going to make all your bits on the inside. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. Let me just remind myself. Okay, so this is 4 inches. I'm going to cut it just under 4 inches. So the reason why I'm doing that is if I cut it at 4 inches, it will be the same size as this, and things tend to kind of like catch. So just by bringing it in a tiny little bit, you just give it a little bit more what we call wiggle room. So 4 inches, and then just bring it in just a smidge across. There we go. And because we cut this at 8 inches, we should now just be able to cut this in half. So turn it around. So I've just cut that way, cut it this way at 4 inches. Okay, so you've got 2 squares. Now on one end of these, I'm going to score again at 1/2 inch. No, I'm not. I'm going to score at 1/4 inch. Just a tiny little score mark there. And I'm just going to fold that up. Do the same on the other one. Actually making sure I've got these the right way. That's just less than 4. So I want to score on that side. You want to score on the bit that's slightly smaller. Just actually make sure I've scored that on the right bit. I have. There we go. And then I'm going to corner around these corners here on my largest setting. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back in now, and what we're going to do is we're going to put some glue along this fold here, because that then gets stuck down and then you lift up, and when we put our pattern paper on, that will cover that up there. Okay, so I'm just going to use, for nice quick and easiness, a little glue runner. And just fold that back over and pop that in place. Okay, and then you're going to do exactly the same on the bottom. So where the folded bit comes, fold it over, you glue on that bit there, and then you stick that down. There we go. And that's created our inside flap part there. Now I'm going to bring that piece of card back in. Now making sure when you now cut this, you have it the right way round. So it should measure 8 inches that way, which it doesn't. So it's the wrong way round. So make sure your 8 inches is that way. I'm now going to cut a piece off here that is 4 inches again. So cut that at 4 inches. I'm just going to move that to the side. And I'm going to score at 2 inches, which is obviously scoring this in half. So line those edges up. Make sure that's exactly half. Now I'm not going to glue this. This is now going to make a pocket here on this outside edge, but I want to put my pattern paper in first on the front and on the back before I glue this bit down. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to remind myself, oh gosh, not on camera, that it goes there, is I'm just going to hold that on there with a paper clip. Okay, just to remind myself that it goes there. So far we've got our double-sided pocket, we've got our 2 flaps. So the last piece of paper creates this kind of like flap here. What I'm going to do is because this is exactly the same height as this, I'm going to take off the tiniest little sliver, again, just so it doesn't stick out of the top of the edge. So pop it in and just take off a real tiny little sliver. Now this time I'm not going to score at 1/4 inch, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make this part smaller. So fold that tab down, bring this back in, and you can see now that fits really well. Okay, you've got a tiny little gap at the top of the bottom, which works really well. So again, I'm just going to run my tape pen down here and pop that in there to create my flap. And that is the basis, I'm just put my camera out a little bit, of the whole project. So close that, close that, close that over, and there we have our lovely little flip flap folio. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do with decoration is I'm just going to show you what I'm going to be using. So I've got this summer bounty kit from the Junk Journal Studio, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's all to do with summer bounty harvests. There's music notes, there's flowers in there, there's tickets. As you know, if you follow the Junk Journal Studio, her kits are always jam-packed full of stuff. So I'm going to use this for my front and back cover, and then we've got these lovely flowers on this musical kind of background, more bolder kind of print here. Then this is some of the sets in here are like little honeybees and bees. So there's that honeycomb background. We've got the glare from my light makes it quite washed out, but these are beautiful colours. Then we've got these, looks like an apple pie kind of, or cookies they remind me of, probably not. And then old-fashioned garden, some lovely music note paper. So that's what I'm going to be using. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my front cover, because I want to show you how we're going to put the fastening on, and you need to put a brad fastening on after your cover, but before you do anything else on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to leave myself a border all the way around the outside, and then I'm just going to mark off where I want this to be here. That's just the way I like to do my covers. You can measure it, but I just like to eyeball it with my pencil. There we go. So that there would be the front cover. So I'm going to use a wet glue for all my sticking down, because obviously it will stick better. I left the lid off this the other night, and luckily it's not dried out. Also, because I'm using black, you need to be really careful, because sometimes if you get glue on here, it's hard to get off. Let me get. So again, taking time just to line those edges up, and then I'm just going to push down from the inside. So that's created that lovely outside cover. Now, like I said, I'm going to put a brad in here as my closure. So I'm just going to bring in my rubber and my pokey tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I want this to be. So you obviously want to come in with that closure, because I'm going to be using, this is a 1-inch hole punch. Okay, and I'm going to punch some card. So thinking what I've got over here actually. I cut out loads of these lovely tags. I might see if I can get something picture-wise. That's quite nice. That bird. I know we're poking a hole right through the middle of it, but so I'm going to use that as my closure. And I'm just going to ink around the edge of that, just because it holds it. Sorry, it picks it up. Otherwise, it's white against white, you can't really see it. Okay, so I'm just going to mark my hole in the middle. Happy with that. So just pop that through there, and then think about where I want that to go on here, which is central, and I'm just going to mark that with a pencil through that hole. Move everything out of the way from the inside. There we go. So then I'm going to come in with my brads. I think I'm going to choose a green brad to go in with the theme. I don't want a great big one, I just want a little one. Actually, I might have a blue because it kind of goes in with that wing colour. That's perfect. So I'm going to pop the brad through there, and then making sure that they face the right way, I'm going to pop it through there. Now when you do this, you don't want that brad to be really tight up against there. So I've got a piece of card here, and I'm just going to cut that in there, and that's just going to stop that from coming too far, because you want your twine to go around it. So put that in there. Make sure the brads are the right way round, and then open that up on the inside again. And when you remove that, you've got that space for your twine to go around. And I'm just going to put a piece of double-sided tape just over that on the inside. Okay, so that's our closure done on the outside. So the fun bit starts now. So I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go through this and we can decorate it. So I'm going to show you how I would do this. I just really think the black makes all these lovely colours really stand out. So first of all, what I'm going to do is kind of like the inside things first of all. So I'm going to do this panel here. So again, this panel was 4 inches. So we want to cut things, we're going to make it a bit smaller. So I'm going to cut them at 3.5 by, I want to cover these joins up, 7.5. So 3.5 by 7.5. I'm just going to write that down. I will forget. Now, these inside bits, I am actually going to use these pockets which are part of the kit as well. Now, as I've cut things out, these pockets are obviously far too wide, so I'm going to put them together just so I know that I'm cutting them both at the same point. So I'm going to cut my paper first. Now I think I'm going to use a nice bold colour behind here. It's quite a nice bold colour behind there. So I'm going to cut this paper. This is my trouble. I'm now working in a piece about this big. Just going to try my camera angle a bit. Okay, so 3.5 by 7.5. So I'm just going to cut the borders off. 3.5. And 7.5. I'm actually going to take a little bit off this end just because I want the colours to match, and then a little bit off that end. So bringing this back in again, coming in with a blue. those. There we go, that's covered that bit up there. So now, like I said, I'm going to come with these pockets now, and I'm going to make those same size. I'm going to want to cut them, that central. So again, I'm just going to come in with my pencil and just mark off on the edges where I want to cut. And if you cut things like this together, you can guarantee that the pocket's going to be the same size. If, like me, you want things quite symmetrical. So one pocket's going to go at the bottom. So again, I'm just going to ink some of these edges. Just because I've printed obviously on white card, it just takes that starkness of the white away. And if you don't like watching people ink, you can fast forward. I quite find it quite therapeutic. Oops. There we go. So one's going to go directly at the bottom, covering this bit up, and then the other one's going to probably go about here, because remember, you want to get things in and out, and if you're putting a tag in there, if I just grab a tag, I can roughly see how far I want this to go up before it hits the bottom. So I might need to drop that down just a little bit more. So that one's going to go there, and I'll put that one there, just so your tags fit. So I'm just going to do a little line of where I want the bottom of that one to go. So fine bead. This probably isn't the best one to use for this. Thought I'd got away without it drying out, obviously not. I find it really hard to get a happy medium with these bottles. I bought some fine line tip ones. They're almost too fine. And they do clog up. I put a pin in them and the pin went rusty. I think it was the type of pin I used, to be fair. So I'm just going to hold that down, so that takes. And then same with the next one. And staggering the pockets means you can get your things in and out as well. So that's where my little line was. So I'll just pop that in there. Try not to get glue on the black card. There we go. So these will now pop in and out there. Perfect. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate the inside of these parts here, and then I know that those parts are done. So I've got this nice floral-y kind of paper, which I think would mirror image this kind of thing here. So again, I'm going to do the same height, which is 3.5. So 3.5. Now I'm going to trim that a bit more because it says old fashioned garden there, and I want that to actually be in the middle. So I'm just going to bring that across just so I'll have all that wording in. Now be careful, because on here I've rounded the corners, so you do need to round the corners on your paper as well. So that's going to be 3.5 there. Where is my corner rounder? Because these corners are rounded at the top. And I want that to come down to roughly about there. Let's take that to my trimmer. Now you could, if you wanted to, put even more pockets on these. Obviously I'm just showing you the basis of how to make a flippy flappy folio. You can add as many flips and flaps as you like. There we go. And because this bottom flap comes down this way, I am going to put the paper on, because obviously you've got musical notes on here and words. I'm also going to put this the same way up. I'm not going to make it upside down. So I'm going to measure that to there. So making sure your words are the right way up. And obviously this part is rounded as well, so I need to round the bottom of this part here. And that should go in there like so. Oops. So there we have our first parts of our flippy flappy journal done. It's hard to get the camera angle. So they fold in and that folds out. Now what I have got, which I thought was quite nice, was these larger tags. They were kind of like paper pieces. I'm hoping they're the right size. There we go. So I've got these ones. So I was hoping, because obviously when you put this down, you can see what's in here. I might just pop that on the top there and have that flipping over that one, and then have this one on the bottom there to flap over that one, because I actually think they're quite beautiful designs as they are. The back of them are white, so what I might just do is come in with my acrylic block. So now I'm going to have that one on the top, because that's my favourite. I just love anything mushrooms. So I'm going to put that one at the top. So I'm going to need to just ink this bottom part here. Now what I tend to do is I put my paper onto an acrylic block, stops anything else getting messy, and then just come around and ink it. You can put a little bit of washi tape on it as well if you wanted to. So I'm going to leave that central part there. So I've just gone around the edges, because I might add something else onto there, because when that's on here like this, that would be a nice place to possibly put. I can't see it, it's that camera shot. Sorry. It's because it's such a long project. When this goes onto here like this, that would be nice to put something on there. Right, let's see if I can come out even more. I have to go, when you're filming for YouTube, you have to have your camera this way, not the other way. So it's hard to get everything in. And I'm going to do the same with the bottom part, so the top part of this one, because that's the part that will be seen. There we go. So I'm just going to hold that on there with the same kind of like border all the way around. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that up, and I'm just going to put a pencil line just so I know where to glue up to. So all of this can have glue, because that's the part that's not going to be seen. So now I should be able to just glue that down. I always like to turn it over. Just make sure that's straight. And just rub from the back. There you go. So that gives us that kind of picture on that lovely flap there. Just to match in with this, I'm just going to very slightly, with a smaller little corner rounder, just take the corners off. There. Again, you don't have to. There we go. I'm going to do exactly the same with the bottom flap. So put my image on, hold it in place as to where I want to stick it. Lift. Sorry. Put a little pencil mark on there. And then again, just glue up to the line. And then turn and press. There we go. So that's created that whole kind of like long flippy flappy part. So bottom flap will now come up, top flap will come down. You've got those gorgeous images on there as well. And then you've got your pockets in here. Put in some lovely little cards. And there we go. That's our first section done. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to this section here. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to decorate this part here. So come in with some different papers this time. I think I might come in with this. Now I'm going to use this part of paper on this side and I'm going to mirror the image on this side here. So when you open it up, it's got kind of like the same kind of papers either side. So I'm just going to cut off those white borders again. Okay, so measuring. This is going to be, so this obviously measures 8 inches. So I'm going to make this 7 3/4, not 7 1/2. I think I cut a bit too much off last time. By 3. So 3 inches across by 7 3/4. I'll just chuck my thing up on the floor. What on earth is that gone? Gosh. Right, 7 3/4. I just knocked this off and went flying on the floor. Couldn't find it. There we go. So this part will go underneath the pockets. You don't have to decorate inside pockets, but I just think it always looks nice. When you lift the pocket up, you can actually see the patterned paper inside. So I'm just going to glue that down onto there. Glue. And where that fold is, just pop that down like so. Then I'm going to need to do the other side as well, because obviously when I put this pocket down, it's double-sided pocket. So one piece of card does 2 pockets. And on the back of this pocket, I think I might have again this lovely paper. So I'm just going to cut that and just a little smidge off the bottom there. I feel like I'm doing a hokey cokey with my trimmer. You put your trimmer in, you put your trimmer out. In, out, in, out. More glue. And pop that on there. There we go. Now, I'm going to put my pocket on next, and then I will decorate the outside of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue one part at a time. So I'm going to glue this side first, which is the outside. So if you bring it round, and then carefully line it up, taking your time, and then once that one's done, I'm not going to bother putting glue down the bottom because it's a pocket and it's solid there. Nothing can escape out, so I don't need to put glue on that bit. And then just pop glue on the other side. It's easy doing it like this and trying to do both at the same time. There we go, just hold that down. So you can see that's created our double pocket. Gosh. Either side. Okay, so now you can think about decorating these pockets here. And I think what I'm going to put in there, hopefully that will fit. Got a lovely big postcard in this kit, so beautiful. And again, it's a nice space for journaling spot. I probably will go around the edge of this and ink it. Yes, it fits. Beautiful. And it's going to go into there. So, what am I going to use for the outside of this? Let me have a little look. I think I might alternate it. So on the outside I've got that paper with this, and then on the outside I'll have that with this. Good thinking. So just need to trim that down. Take that little bit off there, and that line there, that actually goes on the lines. And that'll be kind of a mirror image from one pocket to the other. So that should fit on there. Love it. Because also on these parts here you can then embellish them and add lots of the lovely little bits and pieces that come with the kit. There we go. So on the other side, do exactly the same thing, but this time I use this paper . Now, obviously, marking it with your pencil and cutting it there, you know that that bit's going to fit straight away. Lots of people do all their cutting first, but I like to do it bit by bit as I go along. And again, just check that fits before I glue. It's a little bit too wide. just going to take a smidge more off that side. That's better. Wet glue is nice because it's got that manoeuvrability. So you can give it a squidge around to make sure it's in the right place. That's what I said about getting ink glue on card. It will dry clear, so it's fine. So the back pocket now is a mirror image of the inside pocket. Okay, so back cover is nice and simple because I'm going to go back in with the same card that I used on the front. So again, I'm just going to line that up, make sure it's got the same kind of border all the way around, and just trim that off. I had to laugh the other day. I was watching somebody's video on Instagram about their craft room before crafting and their craft room after crafting. Yeah, that's what mine's kind of like, looking like an absolute mess. But it's fun. It's a kind of cleaning up you don't mind doing. I love this paper, it's my favourite. We've actually got blackberries coming out where I live at the minute, so I'm going to go blackberry picking. Make a nice blackberry and apple crumble. And there we go, that's the back cover. So the last things I need to do now is these sections here. So we've got this one here. I might actually come in again and just layer up these cards because I think these are quite sweet. So I might come in, because they've got the same border, and have that at the top, and I might cut that, make a pocket, rather than using backing paper. These tags are lovely and big. I think they're journaling cards rather than tags, because obviously they're not cut to be tags. So I'm just going to pop that one in, obviously making sure it lines up across the top and covers up that brown just there. So I'm just going to hold that to make sure that's obviously sticking down around that bit there. Then, now do I use that one or do I use a different one? They're too shallow, I don't want to use that. So I am going to cut this to make a pocket. So I want to cut it so it's big enough to cover there. So I might just cut off just beneath that wording. And obviously I can then use that on another project or in this project. So just where that wording is, I'm going to cut there. Nice little tag. And then hopefully that's perfect. I'm just going to make a notch. 3.5, so 1 3/4. There. Just a little notch. This is a 1-inch hole punch. And then again, just come in and ink that up. And then I can just glue that down there, and like that. Perfect. So don't be afraid to, well no, you're probably not afraid, just to cut things up, put them where you probably wouldn't normally put things, use them in a different way. There we go. Right, now this side, I've got this nice music paper, and again the old-fashioned garden will fit, so you can actually have that in there. So I'm just going to chop that piece off. Just coming down this white border. And then measure across. So I'm going to cut that. I need to make sure I'm not getting that on there. So that's there. Just fits. And then again mark down the bottom. Now this thing I will ink up because it's quite a light colour. It's like a really sort of pale yellowy brown. So I'm just going to ink the edges of that. Now because this is paper, just be very careful inking, because obviously paper will tear quite easily. If you don't want to do it like that, you could again get your acrylic block and just come in like that. It takes inking a bit further, but I quite like the effect. And you know you're not going to rip your paper either. I'm using, by the way, tea dye rather than vintage photo. Vintage photo is quite dark, because a lot of the papers in here are quite colourful and light. I want to keep it in the same kind of feel. There we go. So just pop that there. There we go. Now on the inside of this, I'm going to take one of these little cards that comes with it, and I'm going to create another little pocket just down the bottom here. I love this big daisy word. So again, to make that central, it's going to mark where my backing paper stops, and then just cut obviously the white bit off around the edge as well. There we go. And then I'm just going to ink that very top bit. I wonder if I could find my inker. There it is. So that's going to come down here just as a little extra pocket down the bottom. So just ink and gluing those three sides. So there we go. We have our, oh, nearly forgot. So this is inside. So we've got our flappy bit here, with our pockets on both sides. We've got our lifty flaps here, pockets here, and then again a pocket here, pocket there. That's our back cover. So the last thing I need to do is obviously this part here. I'm going to come in with that nice, beautiful, flowery paper. That needs to be that way up. And again, like I said, you can add more pockets to this if you wanted to. Embellish things. It's kind of like nice. It depends what you use your journals for. If you want to add photographs, if you're gardening it, you obviously need to leave places for photographs and other bits and pieces to go in. So don't get too pocket happy and leave yourself nowhere to actually put anything. Okay, so that's just going to go on there. It's been ages since I made a natural journal. I want to do something a bit more purposeful. I've been doing lots of little small videos, but it's quite nice to just take your time and do a nice big project. There we go. Lap, lap, lap. I know what I should have done with this is put some card underneath it, because that is card, but it's not ideal. Never mind. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some twine to that. I usually use my brown twine, but I've left that at work. But I've got this kind of like orangey brown, which links in with the theme anyway. So what I do is I create a loop like this, and then I feed that underneath the circle. Like so, and then just pull that tight around it. Why are you not going up? There we go. And just pull that tight to the brad. So it's gone around the back. Okay, one should be enough. That's plenty of cord there. I've lost my sharp scissors as well. My craft, I will show you in a minute, my craft was an absolute mess. So I'm going to do that. And then all you need to do is you just need to wind it around your journal however many times you want to. So I'm going to go around once, twice, and then cut out there. Because what you'll do is you'll then go around that again to hold it in place. Now, one of the things I am going to add to the front of my journal, because here comes a fun bit, is I can now start to decorate all these lovely bits and pieces. So I'm going to undo it and use some of the elements from the kit to start to embellish it. Before I do that, I am just going to have a bit of a tidy up, because look, I'm working in a tiny little space like this, and I've got stuff there, stuff there, stuff on the floor. I'll be back. Oh, much better, much tidier. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is use some of these elements over here. I've cut lots of bits and pieces out from the kit, and I'm going to start to put these together onto the journal. So the first thing I'm going to do is add on the front of here. This journal belongs to, so I thought it's so sweet. Again, I'm going to just very lightly ink around the edge of this to lift it off the white. And then I'm going to actually raise this up with a couple of foam pads. I don't think I'll be able to get two on there. I might be able to get 1.5. I found black foam pads. How cool. I'm quite excited because Craft Stash is back. I love Craft Stash. There we go. So that just gives it a little bit of extra dimension off the front of the journal. And I might just pop, again, just going to take the white bits off there. I think we're going to have that. This is where it's nice, just sit and play with. When you've got a kit, you can pop bits and pieces on, take things off. Quite like the white. And just layer bits and pieces up. And again, quite happy that's a front cover. It's not too much. Then inside on this bit here, again, you can add some little bits and pieces. I'm going to make that into, so cards, when you've got like these little, I see these lots on kits. You sort of think, oh, you know, what can I do? Yes, you can put it in as a little journal card, but you can also actually use these as corner pockets. So just by running some glue down two of the edges, it's a tuck spot rather than a pocket, because it'd be too thin to have as a pocket. But with a tuck spot, lining up the papers, it's easy to get things in and out. Obviously that's way too small to be a pocket. What you can then do is have these tags, and the tags can just come in and out of there like that. Okay, and then we've got a tag here. So I'm going to start putting these tags and things inside. So these tags come with a kit, and they've all got these lovely things on it. So B with an insect or a large group. So it's obviously got the description: flower, grow, garden, vegetable, and my sunflower has a hole in it. However, you could use that, put a bit of acetate behind it, put a little sunflower, a little bee on it, and use it to your advantage. So this is all about seeds, so I'm going to put the one that says vegetables inside this first tuck spot. Okay, then we've got another one down here, daisy. Do we have one with flowers? Yes, I do. Little flower can go in there. Now again, if you wanted to with these, it's entirely up to you. You could cut a hole and put a little brad through and some twine. I'm going to do that with these, but I'm not going to do it on camera because it'll take me a while to do that. So in there. And then you also come with these larger tags as well. So we've got a sunflower theme in here. Little tip I've got for you as well is I get a lollipop stick, now this is dried, and just pop it behind and just lift that card. And I know it sounds strange, but it stretches the fibre slightly, and that's just easy to get those tags in and out. And that nice big tag fits in beautifully there with the sunflower theme. Then open it up. This is where I was going to put this gorgeous postcard. Absolutely stunning inside there. There we go. And then we have our flip. Oh look, two tags already in there. Bountiful and berry. And again, if you wanted to put your tags and things on them. And then finally, my back flap here. I might put a couple of little things in here. Some tags. I'm going to put some decoration on here as well. These little bits here are quite plain. So I'm just going to put a little ID down the bottom. And then I might put a little ticket up the top. And this is where you can just play and play and play and play. Lots of lovely things. There's some flowers in this kit as well to cut out. You could do flowers on there as well. And this green bit at the back. Come in with a little tag there. And then I just pop that number. I might do it that way. I love this flower down here. It looks gorgeous. What do I do this here? Choices. I think I'm just going to keep it quite minimal because this picture is actually quite beautiful. So if I just pop that there, and again just put a little number in it. And that fits lovely across there. And I'm going to go for the red one this time. And you could do some stamping in here if you want to as well. Stamp things, you know, make it your own. Adding and adding and adding. On the back page, I think I might put something up the corner there. Just put the number 8. It's the back. You won't really see much of the back. Do it at the bottom. I don't want to cover up that beautiful strawberry. There we go. So final flip through. I've made a flip flap journal. I'm so chuffed. So open up the front cover. We have our first little tuck spot and a flap. A couple of pockets in here, a couple of pockets this side with another flap, flip, whichever you want to call it. And I'm going to flip that gorgeous paper top. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was going to put some things on here, wasn't I? Probably use all my bits and pieces now. I'm going to put that there. Just stops it from being so blank. Little ticket, and then my other little flap down the bottom, and I'm just going to have a little number on there. Just breaks up the plain paper. There we go. So flap up and our flap down. And then our last pocket there. So there we go, 2 sheets of A4 paper, and you can make yourself a little flip-flap journal. I'll put measurements down below, and I will link the paper kit I use from Junk Journal Studio as well. It's called Summer Bounty, and yeah, have a go. Just keep adding flips and flaps and see where it takes you. Take care, my crafty friends. I'll see you again very soon.